This is part 2 of the course, The Attitudes of Mastery. This course is premised on the notion that thoughts and emotions are energy, directed by our values and standards and attitudes, and determine the frequency of the timeline within which we will experience our reality, our hologram. So if you don't understand this, we suggest you watch our earlier courses. What is an attitude? An attitude is the practice of conscious thinking and emoting based on one's values and standards and aspirations to be the best version of you that you possibly can be. In our previous courses on timelines and mastering the hologram, we learned how we change our reality and move our consciousness to a higher frequency timeline through our thoughts, emotions, words and actions, values and standards, and through our attitudes. In this course, The Attitudes of Mastery, we focus on our aspirations and intentions for moving our consciousness to a higher timeline and improved experiences of reality by examining our attitudes. In our previous courses on timelines, we learned how the timelines are potential, probability, and possibility, and how we navigate our consciousness to higher potential through our thoughts and emotions, to a higher probability through our values and standards, to a higher possibility through our attitudes. Attitudes work together, and each attitude opens up a new possibility, and together they assist us onto a higher timeline of possibility. So let's jump into what these attitudes of mastery are that will assist us in mastering the hologram and lift the frequency of our experiences onto higher timelines of possibility. Let's look at curiosity, the attitude of curiosity. Curiosity is an energy form and is our universal interchange and communication system, and is activated by questioning. So by asking questions, we activate an electrical thought energy exchange. We literally live in a universe of information, and this information is freely available to the intelligent observer. The reason why this information is not always apparent and accessed is because we suffer from cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the inability to see beyond one's own indoctrination and associative ideas. In a sense, curiosity is the cure for cognitive dissonance. As the saying says, seek and you will find. Everything you want to know is within you. You just have to be prepared to see beyond your indoctrination and face it. When we experience life, our reality, through our 5 senses, eyes, ears, nose, smell, and touch, and there is no interchange through the pineal gland with the universe assumes that we don't want information, that it is quite willing and able to feed us. So by asking questions, we activate an electrical thought energy exchange. When we experience life, our reality, through our 5 senses, eyes, ears, nose, smell, and touch, and there is no interchange through the pineal gland with the universe assumes that we don't want the information, that it is quite willing and able to feed us. Sometimes it is instant, and sometimes there is a time lag, but the universe will always respond to the questions we ask. And these questions are formed and given by our interaction through our senses to the universe, energized by our thoughts and emotions. Have you ever noticed the curiosity of children and the questions they ask? Adults, by contrast, lose their curiosity over time and stop asking questions. They assume they know it all. This is extremely damning to the soul. It is a curious thing that in my interchanges with Aizmir, I asked many questions, and he seldom answered them directly. He just smiled and sometimes laughed, and that made me feel a bit stupid in the beginning. You know, the way we sometimes make children feel when they ask questions. However, the answer was always delivered in a synchronous way, either through other people or synchronous events, or through people I would come across on the internet, or through books I would read. So one day I remarked to him, "I know why you don't answer my questions. It's because I am the answer to my own question. It is within me. I just have to go find it. Is that not so?" His response was, "You are only limited by the lack of questioning. The answers will always eventuate, but you have to keep asking the question. Sometimes you will not recognize the answers, but don't stop asking questions. One question will lead to another question, and each question will be answered as long as you keep asking questions. When you stop asking questions, the answers will evade you. The universe will reveal the answers that lie within you as long as you keep asking questions. That is curiosity. The asking of the questions refines the answer. The answer within us, as long as we keep the sense of curiosity. We are the answer to the questions we ask, but we have to refine that through a process of soul refinement. And we can only do that through curiosity and asking questions. Curiosity is the quest to know, and know what is beyond the indoctrinated mind. If our cognitive abilities are limited by our beliefs, we limit our ability to know. Curiosity will take us out of our cognitive dissonance and replace our indoctrinated mind and the mind of beliefs with knowing, certainty, and a world of unlimited possibilities. Curiosity is therefore one of the most powerful forces we have to overcome limitation. Because the answers are in there, we just have to learn how to find them by asking intelligent questions. Understand this one, and it will release your soul from all bondage, past, present, and future. It is one of the most avoided things here, and that is grace. I almost feel inadequate to speak of this, not because I don't understand it, but because it is so difficult to put into words. Most understand the meaning of grace to be unmerited favor, that is, the cause is separate from the response. Humans have largely forgotten and don't practice grace. We speak of someone who is graceful as being someone who is beautiful, dressed well, and moves like a ballerina. That is not grace. Grace is unmerited favor, not earned, given freely. So how does it work in the universe? Humans have this concept of a God, or an Allah, or a Buddha, that is better than them. And if they comply and conform to their rules, they might attain some crazy expression of higher states of consciousness they call heaven. Or if they don't conform, they go to an ill-defined place called hell. This is not the universe and universal laws that I know. The reason for the fall of the fallen angels was simply because they could not accept grace. They felt that they had to earn favor and be cosmically admired, so that they could be just like God and earn admiration. And so they had propagated through religion, dogma and indoctrination, the system of earning respect and favor that exists here on earth. Grace is anathema to the fallen beings, and unless we get our heads around this, the lies that they are perpetrating here, and understand that grace is a part of the universal system, we will remain under their domination, dominion, and control. Slavery is a part of the fallen system. If we comply, we are rewarded with carrots, like donkeys. And if we don't, we are given a stick and punished. The universe simply doesn't work this way. It is a lie from the pit of hell. The universe is all giving and forgiving. Each particle, being or wave in the universe is a part of the universe, and the universe will not destroy itself. It has been at this for a long time, and it knows how it works, and is supposed to work. It is only those dumb fallen ones who try to make us think otherwise. Grace is not understood here at all, because we live in a carrot and stick system. The possibility that we could just be and do and have all that we desire as we mold the experiences we wish to have and be responded to by the universe is almost unconscionable here. Acknowledgement and respect. The next attitude is about acknowledgement and respect, and acknowledging another and respecting their right to be. This is encapsulated in the African culture called Ubuntu, that expresses it very well. How does this work in the universe? How should it work here? Have you ever noticed how people walk by each other in the street and they hardly glance at each other? There is no acknowledgement that the other person is even there. This is disrespectful. I learned this from a young African brother who was working under my supervision some years ago. We were standing next to each other during a lunch break, and I was more involved in eating my sandwich than to notice him. He said to me, "Excuse me, boss, but I am Samuel." I looked at him surprised that he spoke to me, and in English. I said, "Hi, Samuel," and kept on eating my sandwich. He then said to me, "Excuse me, boss, but I want to tell you something." I looked up at him, and he had a kind face and a serious expression on his face, so I became attentive. He said to me, "I mean no disrespect to you, sir, but every day you come to work with us, but you don't see us. We are just workers. You don't look at us. You don't see us. Why is that so? In our culture, that is disrespectful." I had no answer, and didn't understand then what he was telling me. But I have since learned the wisdom of his words. I thought about that, and have since learned that in African culture, non-acknowledgement is disrespectful. So I changed my attitude. I really began to look at my workers and got to know their names and spoke to them about their families and their struggles. I began to acknowledge them and respect them and saw unlimited potential in them. And they responded accordingly with better quantity and quality of work. In our journey through the framework of the universe, we have a problem here. We don't see each other, we don't acknowledge each other, and we don't respect each other. It's a bit like having zombies walking around who cannot acknowledge the existence of another. I had to change and do some serious soul searching. Disrespect to another is disrespect to oneself. Non-acknowledgement of another is non-acknowledgement of oneself. I got this, but how does one put this into practice? This was a hard one for me at first, but made a big difference to how I felt about myself. I began to be more attentive to my interactions with other people. When I walk down the streets in crowds of people, I look at them in the eye and smile. A smile that says, I see you and acknowledge you. I sometimes get some smiles back, but largely people don't respond. Everyone seems too busy with their own thoughts and emotions. I began to realize that people were just desperate for acknowledgement and respect, but won't give it. So I asked Aizme about this. He looked at me, smiled, and then fell about laughing. When he had recovered from his mirth, he asked me, "Why do you think this is so?" I thought about it, but had no answer. He then asked, "Who are those other people you are seeing?" Again I was lost for words. He then said, "They are you." Try to figure that one out. I was not pleased with his response, but did try to figure it out for myself. Based on the information I'd gained by then, I began to work it out. So the next time we interacted, I said to Aizme, "Maybe all those people that I see are just reflections or a mirror image of me. Maybe it is my own need to be acknowledged that is being reflected back to me through them." He looked at me and said, "Go on." I didn't really know what to say, so I said, "This is crazy. Are we so starved of acknowledgement and respect that our lack of self-acknowledgement and self-respect has overridden our ability to acknowledge and respect?" Aizme just looked at me benevolently and said, "What do you think? Don't you yet know that acknowledgement and respect are pivotal to interacting with other beings, whether earth beings, vegetable, mineral, animal, or human, or others from the rest of the universe?" I had to sleep on this one and found it hard to understand, but over time I figured it out. If we do not acknowledge and respect all things, we do not acknowledge or respect ourselves. So how can we be in a relationship with them? Acknowledgement and respect are the foundation to all relationships. We may think that it is love, but love without acknowledgement and respect is no basis for sound relationships. If we do not respect those we love, we can't claim to really love them. From an energetic viewpoint, I find it hard. I find it kind of works this way. What one gives, one receives in return. We are surrounded by givers in return for what we give. The next time we realize that we are too preoccupied or tired to acknowledge or respect another, whether it is mineral, vegetable, insect, bird, fish, animal, or human, try to step back and do the acknowledgement and give respect to interactions by being aware of our need for acknowledgement and respect ourselves. The reward for acknowledgement and respect is not material benefits, but in gaining self-acknowledgement and self-respect, both of which will support the soul. When the soul loses respect for itself, it withers and dies. So I acknowledge others, whether elemental, mineral, vegetable, insect, bird, human, animal, or human. They deserve our respect because they support us. I speak to them and thank them for their soul being and acknowledge their role in my own soul journey. And doing this has built my own appreciation of myself as a soul being and my role in the lives of my other soul companions, whom I love, acknowledge, and respect. Just a quick anecdote that happened this morning. I have neighbours. When the neighbours leave their home, they have two little Dachshunds who start howling and making a noise. So I couldn't do this video because the dogs were howling next door. So I thought, how can I show them acknowledgement? How can I show them that I see them? So I looked over the wall, they looked at me, and they just kept howling. So I made a recording of them howling, and then came back into my studio, and I played the recording back to them. And then instantly they stopped howling. And they haven't howled since then. Perhaps they appreciated that someone was acknowledging the pain they were in. Interesting though. The next attitude is gratitude. And it's an attitude that we should carry with us wherever we go. Gratitude creates more of what is being expressed in gratitude. It is awareness and acknowledgement of the all-oneness, and that everything and everyone has its place and space in the universe, and being grateful for occupying the space we occupy and the experiences that we have. You might argue, what about when bad things happen? Should I be grateful for those too? I argued this way too before, but didn't understand the energetics of attitudes. Attitudes cannot be held in isolation from each other, as they will work collectively together to affect the outcomes of the reality we are observing. There is another attitude that I will describe later called responsibility, and others that I will also describe to affect the energy of gratitude. Gratitude is an energy form that alerts the universal wave fields to the fact that they are responsive and will respond to our desires, and that they are delivering what was expressed as gratitude. It is the backflow or feedback and acknowledgement to the universe that it did the right thing. And that is what you should give, and that it should give you more of what you expressed gratitude for. Now, gratitude is singular, monopolar in the universe. And the universe cannot distinguish between I want from I don't want. This is the trap that many fall into when they express negative gratitude, like, thank goodness this didn't happen to me, or thank goodness nothing bad happened, or I am so grateful that I didn't lose. When we express gratitude for the negative, The universe receives the negative and responds with the negative. So always express gratitude in a positive ways, and for the positives and not the negatives. If you express what you don't want, the universe will provide more of what you don't want. It is important to understand this. Don't express, "This is not what I want," or "This shouldn't have happened." Try to express only what it is you want, and be grateful for that. And the universe will deliver more of what you express. This is extremely relevant to people who express negatively. If you express what you don't want, you will get more of the same. Be careful when expressing gratitude or ingratitude. The universe simply doesn't understand the difference, and is a more of energy field, and will provide more of the things we express. So when we express gratitude, be careful to express gratitude for that which you wish to have more of, and not what you don't wish to have more of. So don't express negatively. Gratitude is a very powerful force and a tool. So train yourself to have a positive expression of what you experience, and express gratitude for the good things in a positive way, and avoid negative expressions, as the positive and negative will be delivered equally when expressed. The next attitude we examine is thoughtfulness and mindfulness. Thoughtfulness works like this. Gratitude is a monopolar energy that comes from the heart, our emotions that I have described. Thoughtfulness is its opposite, monopolar energy that comes from the mind, so that they are meant to work together. One cannot really be thoughtful without being grateful. To put it another way, one cannot be mindful without feeling gratitude. Let me tell you about thoughts and how they work. We do not think with our brains. The soul being, the I am conscious being, thinks. Our brains are just meant to be the receptors and processors of information. It's like a computer central processing unit, a CPU, that receives and processes information. The information our brains receive comes from, firstly, our physiology, our senses, eyes, ears, taste, touch, and smell, that is processed through our DNA and nervous system to provide information to the brain. Secondly, information comes to our brains from the wavefields of common sense, the intuitive self, the God self. This common sense is filtered through the soul body to the sovereign, self-willed, self-expressive physical body, to give physical manifest expression of and to the experience. Common sense in this context is knowledge that exists in the field of information, that pre-exists in the soul body, in its soul codes, in the context again of its own soul evolution. The brain is just the processor of information. I'll repeat that again. The brain is just the processor of the information that has been programmed into our genetic DNA and soul codes. Brains do not think, they process information. The thinking is done in the universal mind of the soul mind in the soul body. The real us is not a physiological expression. It is a soul expression. We are a creation from the universal wave fields. All creative thought comes from the field of information carried through the wave fields. And the waves of energy of light, which is thought information, and sound, which is emotional information, are carriers of the universal information. And these reside within us as pre-information when we incarnate here. The brain collects information from the physical world, our bodies, our experiences, our education and indoctrination, and all those messages go to the brain for processing. So if we stub our toes, our physiology carries that information to the brain and we react accordingly. Ouch. If you develop the understanding of the soul body, stubbing your toe becomes a different experience. Your soul knows that this pain is momentary and an illusion. And so the reaction might be quite different, impactful, and have a different outcome. Can you see how different it might be if we combine physiological reaction with universal common sense? How then does one really become thoughtful? If we exclude the messages being carried from our external world, our experience here would be hyperdimensional, and our experiences wouldn't make any sense. The purpose of a physical manifest experience is to refine the soul in our soul evolution, and it requires our physical manifest experience to do so. And the reason it doesn't work so well is we are being blocked from the universal wave fields. To be really thoughtful, we have to begin to learn about the information being carried to our brains from the wave fields as well. We do that through an activated pineal gland. And I've spoken before on how to activate the pineal gland. Also, we have to have the right attitudes. If our attitudes exclude love, oneness, grace, curiosity, acknowledgement and respect and gratitude, we simply can't pick up the information coming through the wave fields, because we are tuned to a channel of information that excludes universal thoughts and values. The next attitude we want to look at is courage, the attitude of courage. To become courageous, we have to overcome the fears we hold within us, that are many, too many to describe here in this limited space. But this is not about our fears, but about our courage and courageousness. Remember when we did the evolution of the soul? We spoke about when we are born here. We are born fearless. We are born with a God mind. And we learn how to fear. This is an important thing to understand. In its simplest terms, we display courage all the time. We wake up in the morning, get out of bed and go do what we do. We have knowledge of what we are doing and have faith and trust that this will work again, as it did in the past. Courage through repetitive behavior. We learn this courage through life lessons. Every day we learn that when we wake up, we put our feet on the floor will be there. We trust that our reality that we experience every day will work the same as it always worked. This takes a lot of courage, faith and trust, but we don't acknowledge it as a universal self-supportive system. Imagine if this wasn't so. If we got out of bed and when our feet hit the floor and there was no floor to support us. We don't even think about it, we just take for granted that it will work the same. The point is that we are doing the most courageous things all the time, but we don't give ourselves credit or acknowledge this for being courageous beings. Stepping into an unknown and trusting it will work is pretty courageous. Courageous is not about feeling courageous. It is not about only thinking courageous thoughts. Courage is about thinking and doing courageously. When we are able to adopt and practice this attitude in our lives, and as I have explained, we do many intrinsically courageous things even without thinking about them, we are able to become more courageous, that is, think and feel more courageously, and more easily overcome difficult circumstances, those things we are afraid of, so it becomes standard practice to be courageous. So we have courage all the time. We don't give ourselves credit for it, and we don't acknowledge that we are courageous, intrinsically courageous beings that have learned how to fear. So in a sense, having courage is unlearning how to fear. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to watch part 3 of this course.